Welcome to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. These are the stories of those who have received, given, and who are waiting for the gift of life, organ transplantation. Now here's your host and heart and kidney recipient, BJ Odom.
Welcome to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast, where we explore the extraordinary world of organ transplantation. I'm your host, BJ Odom. Each week, we share inspiring stories and introduce you to remarkable individuals sharing their own transplant stories. Be sure to support the podcast by leaving that 5-star review and subscribing on your preferred podcast platform. Have a transplant story you'd like to share? Or some comments about the podcast? Feel free to email us at giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. We would so much love to hear from you. And don't forget to connect with us on Facebook, Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. And check out our new website, giftoflifepodcast.com, as we welcome you to episode 60. In this moving episode, we meet Patches Rich, a loving mother whose heart journey began around the birth of her child. Doctors urged her to undergo a cesarean due to heart concerns. But life moved forward. Regular cardiologist visits showed no major red flags. That all changed years later. Patches learned her heart was enlarged, and the ejection fractions were dropping to dangerously low levels. Her life suddenly took a turn. And if you've listened to this podcast before, you know where this road leads. After months of testing and declining health, Patches was told she needed a life-saving heart transplant. For 6 long months, she lived in the hospital ICU, away from her son, who was too young to visit. But the story doesn't end there, and we'll hear the entire story coming up with Patches Rich next. Patches, great to have you on the podcast. Welcome aboard. And if you would, as we start things out, as always, tell us a little bit about yourself, Patches.
Well, I am 48 years old, just turned that back in March. I'm a mother of 3. My oldest is 28 years old and my youngest is 14. My middle one is 21. So somehow I spread them all out 7 years apart. I am a licensed engine mechanic. However, I haven't really been able to return back to work as of yet, still on disability. Had several different things that I've enjoyed during my life. Playing guitar, I've done that for 30 years. I've been a Sunday school teacher for 7 years, teaching youth. I love animals. Got cats and dogs, but I've had farm animals and everything in between. I love nature. I love spending time with my family and my kids, riding motorcycles, go-karts. If it's got an engine on it, let me on it. I love doing everything. Drawing. I used to do tattoo work, but I haven't done it since transplant. I'm really just scared to do it now. I don't think I'll probably ever do that again, but I did draw a tattoo for my daughter, and she had somebody else put it on, and that was very, touching. Made me feel special, I guess.
Awesome.
I love helping people. I'm also a sponsor with several different things, not just with transplant, but like I did a sponsorship last night where I've gone in and I've helped a couple here locally in my town that is fighting defects, trying to get their child back. And I went in and tried to help them and attended a meeting last night with them. So all around, I love helping people and reaching out to people and just living my best life.
That is good to hear, especially with a heart that's a little over a year old that you now have. But let's start that journey.
Yeah.
So where did it all begin?
When I got pregnant with my 14-year-old, I started having blood pressure problems. And then they took me out of work. Then I ended up there. By the end of the pregnancy, they're like, your heart's just too weak. We're not going to let you give birth. We're going to do a scheduled C-section. And I'm like, wow, I really didn't think anything about it. I was like, okay, well, this is just a normal thing, I guess, with pregnancy. I mean, a lot of people do it, and never really thought about it, that my heart was having problems. And it seems like they never, stressed it to me either until they told me that I needed to see a cardiologist, and I really didn't think nothing about it. I just thought this was just the norm. 35 years old. Well, I was 34 at the time, and having my son, and I thought, it's okay. And then I never quit seeing the cardiologist, and my EF, my ejection fraction, was at 40. And I was like, okay, well, that's okay. The doctor kept telling me it was normal, and, just take beta blockers and I'd be fine, and that my heart was a muscle and it could rebuild itself. Well, over those 12 years, I would go, my ejection fraction got up to 45, and then it would drop down to 35, or, kind of hover around 40. And we would go up and down on medications. Well, all the way 12 years went by, and then all of a sudden, I kind of skipped over the 30s. Only one time I had saw the 35, and then I just dropped to 20. And it didn't matter what medications that we could do. We just couldn't get my ejection fraction back up again. And then they started telling me how enlarged my heart was. And it was actually so large that during the transplant procedure, while waiting in the hospital, they told me, they're like, your heart is like as big as my head.
Oh, wow.
Your heart is like huge. And I'm only 4'10". And at the time of, that I was waiting on my transplant, I went in weighing 89 pounds because my intestines and my organs started shutting down. And I couldn't eat. I was on a liquid diet because my intestines just wasn't working. They're like, your body is so little and your heart is so large. And they actually asked me if they could, because I had my transplant done at Emory, and it's a college also, and they wanted to know if I would donate my heart for science and to study it, and if they could take pictures and video when they opened me up, because they wanted to see how that large heart was pumping and doing inside of such a small body. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Anything that'll help, the study of science and, with transplantation as well.
Now, I got an interesting question for you, because I had an enlarged heart also, and it started enlarging as a youth. And when my bone structure was kind of being formed, and my heart kind of crowned out where the heart is there in the middle. It kind of had a bulge to it. Did yours bulge, or did it happen later in life where your bones and your ribs were already?
Mine just happened, right. Mine just happened later on in life. And I have severe scoliosis, and I had it, a spinal fusion when I was 15. So that side of my chest actually bulges out, and the other side actually, the rib cage goes out towards the back. So it actually gave my heart more room because of the curvature. But my heart had gotten so large that by the end, it had gotten a murmur where it was actually starting to tear.
When did they actually tell you that you were going to need a transplant? Is that as soon as they told you your heart was so enlarged?
Yeah, December of 2021. No, 22. December of 22, they told me that they had done an echo, and then they called me back in, and they sat down with me and talked to me. And I actually just had a feeling. So I actually recorded the audio, and just turned my phone camera down and just recorded the audio. But they told me that my heart had just gotten so weak, and that here in my local town of Rome, Georgia, they said that, there's nothing more here that they could do for me. And that they were going to give me the referral down to Emory to see if that I could get the transplant. And I'm like, a transplant? Kind of, shocked me, and they're like, you're not going to live and see your son graduate or anything. And he was 12 years old at the time. And I'm going to tell you, it was like the scariest thing in the world to that morning that I was going down after I got accepted into their program. And I knew that I was going, like, I was too weak and I was too sick. And they're like, we're going to have to put you inpatient and you're going to have to stay in the hospital while you wait on your heart. So they gave me like 3 days to, get my finances, get child care, get everything, took care of. And that morning, I had to send my son to school. And hugging and giving him that last kiss, knowing that I may not make it back out, but that might be the last time that I got to see him because he wasn't old enough to come and see me while I was in ICU. They wouldn't allow him in. And so I had to go for, 6 months without seeing him. It's other than, Facebook Messenger where I could call him and do videos with him. And then the night that they come to me and told me that I had a heart offer. And it was so odd for like 6 weeks since the day that I got dropped down to a status 3. It's like I had like some kind of, either I was asleep or I was like in and out of sleep or a dream state, whatever. It's like I come to and I was like I had something tell me like your heart's going to come on a Saturday. And I remember every Friday I would call my daughter and I'd post it on Facebook like my heart's coming tomorrow. And I would make it a joke. And I was like, hey, daughter, which her name's Alexis, I'd be like, Alexis, my heart's coming tomorrow. And she's like, it is. And I'm like, yeah, it's coming. She's like, okay. And we'd just laugh about it. So when they come and told me that they had a heart offer, and the first thing I said is like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like already on the heart pump on the Impella, and I was real, like I could barely stay awake. But I remember like barely awake state, and they're sitting there, 2 doctors and holding papers, and they're smiling real big. And we got your heart offer, and I'm like, what day is it? First question, the first thing I say, what day is it? And she's like, it's Saturday. And I'm like, that's my heart. And she said, oh, well, wait a minute. She said, well, we got to tell you that there's a couple of things that we want to go over with you because you may not want to accept this heart offer. And but they had already told me previously that I was so weak and so sick that that heart offers, sometimes it's best to go ahead and take the first one if it's a good one. And I was like, okay, well, what is it? And they're like, well, they've been incarcerated, had been in prostitution, and was an IV drug user, and that there were certain things that might come along with the heart, but it wasn't anything that they couldn't treat or that wasn't treatable. It wasn't anything that would, risk my life, in other words, and wanted to know if I still wanted to go through with it. And I was like, it's Saturday. That's my heart. Yeah, let's go with it. And everything, once they went and looked at it and it was a perfect match, and they said that it was a go, and then I went ahead and I called my son. He broke down. And I'm like, why are you crying? This is you're supposed to be happy. And he said, no, Mama. He said, I've read up on the statistics. You only have like a 25% chance of making it through the surgery. And I'm like, well, I don't know what the statistics are, what you were reading. I said, but I got this. This is going to work. I'm going to be all right. But, it was really touching.
I want to hear the whole. I want
to
hear the whole story, but I do want to hear this because, okay, you said your husband. I mean, not your husband. Your 14-year-old son could not, come into the hospital, and where
Yeah,
you
he
were.
was 12 at the time. Yeah.
Okay, so when he did see you after that heart transplant, I want to hear the story. I mean, I just want to know how that felt and how he felt when you finally got to see
I'm going
Mom.
to tell you, I didn't get to see him until the day that I got home. He was sitting in the driveway waiting on me when I pulled in, and he jumped out of that car, opened my door, and just fell into my lap crying. I mean, it was like the most exciting thing. I didn't know what to do. I was hurting, but at the same time, I'm squeezing him with everything that I had in me. I'm just got a bear grip around him. It was so awesome.
Yeah.
It was the best. I'm like starting to cry now, just remembering those emotions. I mean, it was like I couldn't have even tried to peel him off of me. He was just like in my lap like a baby again. Like the 2-year-olds when they're running around and get hurt and they run to you and just grab a hold of you. That was that kind of hug that I got from him.
I would say
it was amazing.
I was going to say that's probably one of the best hugs you'd ever had in your entire life.
Yeah, and then my daughter, she's an adult, and she's the one that, she stayed out of work. She left her 2-year-old at home with her husband, and stayed with me in the hospital the entirety of the time. When I got down to the status 2, she was there with me. She's like, "Okay, well, I'm on my way," and I'm like, "Well, I'm not got my horse." She said, "Well, I'm coming." So there wasn't no telling her, but I went to her house and stayed with her, and she took care of me. And I mean, transplant really got me closer to my kids than I ever was before. And I have a granddaughter who was only, she was 3. And so, I mean, we just now, all of us, me and all my kids, just went to Gulf Shores, Alabama, and stayed on the beach for I think 4 or 5 days, and it was just amazing. Just being, transplant just changed my whole outlook on life. Like, I really realize now that life isn't about how hard you work, what you gain, material wise, or the status you have for your name out there in society. It's all about being with the ones that you love and the ones that care about you and love you. Because what I realized while I was on my literal deathbed was that everything that I've ever done or accomplished in life meant nothing. What I had physical, material wise meant nothing, because when you pass away, the only thing that for sure that the ones that love you and care about you are going to continue to have until the day of their passing are memories.
Yes.
And you got to make those memories so that they'll have that to carry on to. Because I've lost my mom, my dad, my grandparents, my sister. I've lost everybody. Except for I've got 2 older uncles. But other than that, I have nobody. And my kids. I've got my kids. And now I wouldn't want to live life without them.
And they are happy too that they get to live life with you.
That's it. But making those memories is what I want, and what I realize is those memories, because that's all I have left. When I had to leave my home, and I had to just leave it, and it got ransacked, and people stole a lot of things, and a lot of things got burnt, and with it being boarded up through the winter, and no power on, because I ended up cutting that off because people were trying to shack up in my house. And I mean, it was a lot to it, but I lost a lot of stuff. And when I got home, I thought that I was going to be all upset, because I was upset in the hospital about it. And when I got home, it didn't bother me, because I still had those memories.
And you had the family too.
I'll never forget the memories that I had growing up, and with my mom and my dad, and having my grandmother and my aunt and my sister. And, I had I've still got all those memories. And I just want to make the best memories in life. And I want to promote organ donation. That's what I started my Facebook right when my transplant journey started. And now I've got like 3,000 followers, and I'm all about, signing up into different things. And like I'm actually on the 14th, I go to the first Transplant Georgia games. I'm going to be in the, I guess it's like the Olympics. It's what the transplant games.
Yes.
But I get to go to Denver, Colorado, June of next year and compete. So my first meeting is on the 14th, and I'm so excited.
Well, I want you to do me a favor now. Once you compete, or when you're out in Denver, or however you want to do it, I want you to get back with me, and we'll talk a little bit about your experience in the, the transplant games.
I would love that.
Awesome.
Yeah, that would be great. So I'm just now starting on that journey, and like I said, my first meeting is on the 14th. So yeah, but that will be awesome. I'll get back in touch with you, of course.
Now I kind of got us off sync here because I wanted to find out about that hug that you gave your son when you finally got to see him after all that time apart because he couldn't come into the hospital. But okay, so we were at the point where, you were ready to receive your heart, and, you called people, and it's kind of like my story. I remember that too. I called family members and they started freaking out, and I was just the other end of the dial. I was like, yes, this is a good thing. I'm getting my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That was exactly what it was. Everybody got like, got scared, but I was like, oh no, I'm excited.
Yeah, same here. I know exactly how you felt. And they were the exact same way.
Something else, like everybody was commenting, are you scared? Are you worried? No, never once did I get scared. I never got upset. They kept coming in and asking me if I wanted or needed somebody to come talk to me. And I'd be, yeah, they can come talk to me. And then when they would leave, they would be like in tears. And they're like, I came to talk to you, but I didn't realize that I needed to be here for you to talk to me. So, I mean, it was really great. I never had a fear. Like I felt calmness the whole time. Like I just knew that I was going to make it through, and that my life was going to change and things was going to be better. And, I had gotten really weak and tired, and I couldn't lay before I went into the hospital. Like I was so sick. I had been on oxygen for like a year. Like I was tethered to that, the concentrator when I was at home, and, I couldn't get out, and I couldn't do much with my kid. Now I could get on the go-kart with him or on the motorcycle because I had like the forced air induction, blowing air into my face, So. But other than that, like I couldn't get out there and play basketball or do anything like that with my kid. I couldn't go swimming or, anything like that anymore. But I can do it all now.
Awesome. So then the transplant day has come, and you go to surgery and you wake up. Let's get back to your story right there as you're,
that was a disaster.
I wasn't expecting that.
Okay. So I don't know what happened, but I woke up and I remember like I could see my daughter's face, and it looked like she was like right in my face, and she was smiling so big. And I was hurting real bad, and I started asking for pain medication. And they're like, "Oh, we already gave you some." And I'm like, "No, you didn't." So I started arguing with them, and they're like, "We're not going to give you dope you up on a whole lot of medicine." Now, if they said this or not, I don't know. If it was true, this is just my memory. And I remember them like telling me that I have a brand new heart. They're not going to give me a whole lot of, narcotic medication at that moment. But they'll give me some Tylenol. And I'm like, I guess I go off on them because I don't remember. But what they told me was that I went off on them and I started screaming at them and I don't know what all happened. So they gave me some Haldol to calm me down. And we didn't know that I was highly sensitive to it, but it put me in a comatose state. And for about 34, 36 hours, I did not move. My head was turned to the side. I did not blink. I did not talk. And the only thing that I can remember is I remember my daughter would be wiping tears off of my eyes and off of my face with the sleeve of her shirt. And I was hallucinating, like complete visual hallucinations of swirls. And I mean, and they were doing all kinds of tests on me, thinking maybe I had a stroke, checking me. Finally, they done what they call a Ativan challenge and give me some Ativan, and it pulled me back out of it. And then my best friend was there, and I looked over there at her, and I said, Jennifer. And she's like, Patches, you're back. And I'm like, where have I been? But I didn't realize by that time 3 days had done passed by, and they were really thinking that I might not recover or wake back up because I was catatonic. I was in a catatonic state is what they labeled it.
Oh, wow. I know those meds that put you to sleep and try to, recuperate you can sometimes do some wicked things that you don't even remember because, well, I've heard stories, and I know how my wife was when she came out of surgery. They almost had to put her in a padded bed for about, 5 or 6 hours as she settled down.
Yeah, it's crazy. I really done great after waking up, and it took me. I think on the 10th day I got to come home. I was at the 7th day I was going to get to come home just after 7 days, but my first biopsy came back as a 2, and they're like, well, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to stay another 3 days. We're going to have to give you the Solumedrol infusions. And I started crying, and they're like, you're still going to go home. And I got so upset. And that was the only time that I got sad and depressed because they told me that I couldn't go home because, I had to get the medicine. But I remember it was the greatest thing ever because I got to come home on Christmas Eve.
Oh,
and that
wow.
was the best Christmas present you could ever give me or, give anybody is, the gift of life and coming home on Christmas, just to be home on Christmas.
And boy, that must have been a big old hug then.
Yeah. It was amazing.
Well,
I'm
I know.
Still sitting here smiling.
I know I do follow you on Facebook, and I know you've had a few, and it's funny, I'm going to be honest with you. When we got to know each other and I found you and you found me and we were kind of like Facebook friends, I thought, okay, this is kind of like Patches. She's had a lot of surgeries. Life has been tough. She got a heart transplant. And I figured, when I met you, you were going to be, Ginger or Sarah or something. And actually, now is Patches your given name?
Yeah, it's my, like I say, my real deal Holyfield. That's my real name. People's like, oh, I thought that was a pseudonym or, different things like that. And I was like, no, because people all the time, like, they'll remember I had a crazy name, so I'll get called like scratches, buttons, stitches, all kinds of different things. But it's also a name that people remember because I'm going to tell you what happened to me. Like sometime last week, I think, I was in town and somebody that I was with, they looked over and said, hey, Patches, calling me down from the end of the aisle. somebody that was just walking by, never saw before, stops, turns around and looks at me and says, "Patches D. Rich?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, I know you. You're that girl on Facebook. I follow you." It just made me, "You're the one that had that heart transplant." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." And he was like, "Oh," and he wanted to give me a hug and then start telling me about his stories and his health problems. And, we had like a 20-minute conversation in the aisle in the middle of Walmart about it. But it was great. It's just a name that people remember. And my mom, I'm her only child, and she was just a special person within herself. And she loved animals and had, by the time of her passing, she had, I think she had coyotes. She little baby coyotes, whatever you want to call them. She had raccoons, cats, dogs, and she would be feeding the raccoons chocolate Pop-Tarts and be feeding the coyotes the dog food with sugar sprinkled on them. I'm like, "Mama, why are you doing that?" She said, "Well," she said, the raccoons will come and eat my kittens, and they like sweet stuff, so I buy them the chocolate Pop-Tarts, and then the coyotes will come and eat the Pop-Tarts because they like sweet." So she started putting sugar on the dog food because it was cheap. I was like, "Mama." So yeah, it was, I think I got an animal name. She just gave me an animal name. Because so many people, "Oh, I've had a cat named Patches," or "I've had a horse named Patches." That's all I ever hear is, people's got animals named Patches, but not somebody else, not a person.
So how has life been treating you? Now, what you say, you're a year and a half from the heart transplant you've had?
Yeah, December the 10th made a year, and I'm just now hitting a year and a half.
So how has life been here in the, let's say, past 6 months now?
Well, I just now had to go back in for surgery. 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago, they cut me back open. The sternotomy clips that hold that little ties that they tie your chest back together with. I was allergic to it, but it wasn't a severe allergy. But CT scans, there was fluid there, but it was not enough to drain. I had a lot of itching, a lot of redness, pain. So they went ahead and cut me back open and took those clips out. So I'm still healing from that, but I'm doing great. Like, I'm already, back to cleaning the house, cooking and stuff like that, and driving, and doing great. And I don't have any problems from the surgery, and I feel so much better that they're out now.
All right. So is there anything maybe that I missed or something that is very important to you that you would like to talk about before we end the show today?
Organ donation. You don't have to even be passed on to become an organ donor. There's living donors. There's donation after death. But if you don't know that, if you think that you might be a donor, or you don't know what kind of donor you are agreeing to, or if you want to just check on that, just go to registerme.org and click on that and check and fill it out. And you can click on the boxes as to if you want to be able to donate all your organs or just a couple of your organs, or, there's so many choices out there. It ain't just like, "Oh, I'm an organ donor." "Oh, well, what kind?" There's so many choices now, and you can make those choices and possibly save somebody's life and give them a chance at living life and living on while in somebody else.
Now, let me ask you, because you're from Georgia. I don't know if Georgia laws are the same as the Florida laws, but they always tell us to make sure you talk to your family, because really when it comes right down to it in the state of Florida, you may be an organ donor, but if your parents or your spouse who has the final decision could still say no. So it's best to share your views and your wants with those you love, because they're actually...
You are exactly correct, because I'm going to tell you this. With my organ donor was not a registered donor. The family actually are the ones that agreed to the donation. So that's a big thing is, talking with family, letting everybody know. Sometimes people don't have family to even talk to. So I think, like maybe if they have like a social media outlet or, even if you don't have anybody and you make your plans, maybe just write it down in your wallet and put it in your wallet or something.
Well, Patches, it's been a joy talking to you today, and I wish you the very best of luck in the future.
Oh, it's been awesome talking with you and hearing the voice of the man that I've been talking to on Facebook, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Patches, for sharing your journey with us today on the Gift of Life podcast. Hey, be sure to join us each week for a new heartfelt episode right here. And if you have a transplant story, please email us. We'd love to hear from you. giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. You can also email us at that address if you have comments about the podcast. We would appreciate it. Follow us on Facebook, and don't forget to like and share this episode with family and friends, and we'd appreciate that 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Another podcast you might enjoy is myself and my former radio partner, Bill Stevens. BJ and Bill, the podcast, all on the Podcast Playground Network. We want to thank them for making this podcast possible. Until next time, I'm BJ Odom. Thank you so much for being a part of our journey and reminding us all to appreciate each and every day and to treasure the extraordinary gift of life.
He was running on empty, heart fading fast. Doctor said, man, you ain't gonna last. But a stranger's kindness, a gift so true, turned the night sky into something new. He got a second chance, he got a brand new spark. Like a freight train rolling back from the dark. Gift of life, let the story be told. One heart beats, another takes hold. Give a little, save a soul. Ain't no greater rock and roll. "15 years later, the road got rough. The fight ain't over when the climb is tough. Needed a kidney, the race was on. Another hero stepped up, kept him strong. Every breath he takes is a tale of hope. One life saved, another can cope. Gift of life, let the story be told. One heart beats, another takes hold. Give a little, save a soul. Ain't no greater rock and roll. Doctor's hands, a donor's grace, running on down to a brand new place. Second chances don't come twice, but when they do, man, they feel so nice. So let's spread the word, let the people know. One yesterday lets a miracle grow. You don't need wings just to save a man, just a little love, a helping hand. Gift of life, let the story be told. One heart beats, another takes hold. Give a little, save a soul. Ain't no greater rock and roll. BJ still rocking, still standing tall, thanks to the ones who gave it all. Gift of life, hear the sound. Pass it on, pass it down. The Gift of Life podcast, hosted by BJ Odom. Listen now.